A 6-year-old girl looked up from her crayons and said 9 words. Those 9 words stopped the most dangerous man in Seoul mid-sip. She didn't whisper them, didn't shout. She said them flat, the way a child says, "It's raining," or "The dog is brown." The nice lady puts a pill in your tea. His hand froze, cup at his lips, steam touching his chin. His eyes dropped to the floor. Small girl, dark skin, yellow puffer jacket over pajama pants with little elephants, broken green crayon in her left hand. Her name was Njeri. She was 6. Behind them both, a Kenyan woman in a gray maid's uniform held an empty tray against her chest. Wanjiku, Njeri's mother. She didn't hear what her daughter said. She was counting tiles in her head. She always counted tiles when she stood near powerful people. Counting meant she didn't have to think. The man holding the cup was Park Jae's son. In Gangnam, they called him the Weather. Not because he was loud, because the pressure changed when he entered a room. And right now, a child on cold tile had just stopped him like a bullet. "Which nice lady?" he asked. His voice didn't change, not one note. Njeri tilted her head, the one with flowers. She touched her own neck. Here, flowers here, perfume. White jasmine. He bought that perfume himself. A bottle from Cheongdam-dong, 380,000 won. His fiancée, Yoon Se-oh-yeon. He set the cup down, didn't spill a single drop. And Wanjiku, standing 3 feet away, had no idea that for 35 mornings, her hands had carried poison on a saucer. Same tray, same cup, same careful walk down the hall. 35 times, she placed death on a desk and bowed and left the room. She never knew. Now, before I show you what happened in the next 3 hours, let me show you what happened in the next 3 days. The order matters. 3 hours after those 9 words, a private lab in Yongsan tested the tea. The results came back on 1 sheet. Red stamp. 1 word. Confirmed. The compound was a slow-acting poison that attacked the heart. You could buy the base ingredients at any traditional medicine market in East Asia. Small doses. Over weeks, it broke down the walls of the heart muscle. Not fast. Not obvious. A coroner would write natural causes and go home for dinner. 4 to 6 more weeks. Park Jae's son. 47. No heart problems. Would have died in his sleep. No questions asked. That same evening, an office door locked. Click. Inside sat 8 people. One of them had been making tea. And at 11:47 that night, Wanjiku was on the kitchen floor. Same kitchen, same tile where Njeri sat with crayons, knees down, hands open. The kettle on its side beside her, empty and cold, but her fingers kept reaching for it, because now she knew. Her hands, her tray, her careful walk. For 35 mornings, she'd been the weapon. Behind her, from upstairs, a crayon scraped paper. Scritch. Scritch. Neri had woken up. Neri was drawing. Every scrape was a knife. The next Tuesday, 2 men in dark suits outside the kitchen door. They knew Njeri's name. They knew she liked rice crackers with sesame. They faced outward, not in. But how did any of this begin? How does a Kenyan widow end up carrying poison for a Korean crime boss? How does a 6-year-old become the only person in a house full of adults who sees the truth? Before I take you back, subscribe, because the next few minutes will show you how many times adults walk right past the truth and never look down. 5:47 a.m., 3 weeks before the 9 words. The kitchen was supposed to be empty. Yoon Se-oh-yeon moved the way water moves over glass. Cream silk blouse, gray trousers, bare feet on tile. Soundless. She checked the hallway. Left. Right. Turned back to the counter. The cup was set. White porcelain, thin rim. Tea bag already steeping. She reached into her pocket, pulled out a small white pill, smaller than a breath mint. She dropped it in. 4 seconds. Gone. She picked up a silver spoon, stirred. 3 slow circles, clockwise. Then she held the spoon under the faucet, rubbed it with her thumb, set it in the drying rack. She stopped, looked at the spoon, picked it up, and washed it a second time, slower, more careful, like she was cleaning something soap couldn't reach. Here's what Seo-yeon didn't know. Behind the island counter, on the floor where no adult ever looked, Neri watched the whole thing. She'd been there since 5:30. She always woke up early on Tuesdays. Tuesdays meant she came to work with her mother. Work meant the big kitchen with the cold floor and the tall windows, where the light came in pink before it turned white. She watched the nice lady drop the tiny white thing into the cup. She watched her stir. She watched her wash the spoon twice, and she filed it away the way children file everything. No judgment, no fear. She thought it was sugar. 30 minutes later, Wanjiku came in. She hummed under her breath. La la Mount Toto la la, a Kenyan lullaby her mother used to sing. Soft, almost not there, just enough sound to keep herself company. Then footsteps, down the hall. The humming stopped, mid-note, cut off like a switch. Her shoulders dropped half an inch, her chin tucked, her eyes went to the tray on the counter. Cup, saucer, folded napkin, already set. She didn't know who said it. She didn't ask. Her job was to carry it. She picked up the tray, walked down the hall, knocked twice, entered, set the cup on the desk. Jae-sun didn't look up. She didn't expect him to. She left the room. 35 mornings. Same tray, same cup, same silence, same invisible woman. And every Tuesday, Nigeri sat on that kitchen floor while her mother worked. Every Tuesday, Seo-yeon came in before 6 o'clock and dropped the pill. Every Tuesday, Nigeri watched. 3 Tuesdays. 3 pills, 3 spoons washed twice. The child didn't tell anyone, not because she was hiding it, because no one asked, no one talked to her. Adults walked past her like she was part of the floor, until the Tuesday she wasn't. Until the boss walked into the kitchen himself, which he never did, and lifted the cup at the counter instead of his study, and the steam touched his face, and Nigeri looked up. The nice lady puts a pill in your tea. Let me take you back to that moment. Real time, no cuts. 8:14 a.m. Tuesday, kitchen. Jae-sun came down because his study was flooded. A broken pipe above the ceiling had leaked overnight. His desk was soaked, so he came to the kitchen for his tea. He picked up the cup, lifted it, ceramic warm against his palm. Steam curled up and touched his chin, and a small voice said those 9 words. He didn't drop the cup, didn't shout. His face went flat, the way a lake goes still before a storm. He lowered his eyes, and Jerry sat cross-legged. Yellow jacket, elephant pajama pants, broken green crayon in her left hand. Which nice lady? Quiet, the kind of quiet that costs more than yelling. And Jerry tilted her head, the one with flowers. She touched her neck. Here. Jae-sun knew the scent. White jasmine, his fiancée. Show me what she does. Nigeri stood up, walked to the counter, reached up on her toes, pointed at the cup. Then she pinched the air with her tiny fingers, careful, exact, and dropped the invisible thing in. She mimed picking up a spoon, stirred. 3 circles, clockwise. She looked back at him. Then she washes the spoon, Nigeri said. 2 times. Jae-sun's jaw moved. 1 small shift, left to right, like a gear locking into place. He looked at the cup in his hand, set it on the counter. The porcelain made a faint tick against granite. Loudest sound in the room. He pulled out his phone, typed 4 words in Korean, test the morning tea. Phone back in his pocket. Then he said to Wanjiku in careful English, "Your daughter can stay in the kitchen today. Keep the door closed." Wanjiku blinked, nodded. She didn't ask why. Asking why was something women like her couldn't afford. The silence, the smallness. She trained it into herself like a second language. Take less air, move less, make yourself so small that no one has a reason to notice you. She thought it kept her safe. She thought it kept Njeri safe. Within an hour, 2 things happened. First, Jae-sun's right hand, a man named Sung-woo with a face like folded stone, arrived with a cooler. He took the cup, sealed it, drove to a private lab in Yongsan. Results in 3 hours. Second, the kitchen camera angle changed. The camera above the fridge used to point at the back door. Now it pointed at the counter, at the exact spot where the cup sat every morning. Nobody noticed, but something shifted in the house. A feeling, like a door had opened somewhere that should have stayed closed, and the draft was reaching the hallway. At 10:15, Wanjiku walked past the staff corridor. Mrs. Han, the head housekeeper, mid-50s, tight bun, mouth like a locked drawer, was talking to 2 junior staff. Low voices. They went quiet when they saw her. Then Mrs. Han looked straight at Wanjiku. She didn't lower her voice. A foreign maid bringing her child into this kitchen. In Gangnam? This isn't Nairobi. This is a serious house. The 2 junior staff froze. One looked at Wanjiku's hands. Not her face. Her hands. Wanjiku stopped walking. That hot wire from stomach to throat. The math you do in half a second. If I speak, I lose this job. If I lose this job, I lose my visa. If I lose my visa, my daughter has nothing. She looked at Mrs. Han. Straight at her. It's Tuesday, Wanjiku said. Her voice was steady. I work, she sits. That's the agreement. She walked past them, into the laundry room, closed the door, stood with her back against it and her eyes shut for 10 seconds. 10 seconds. Then she opened her eyes and started folding sheets. Wanjiku wasn't always a maid. In Nairobi, her husband David worked for a logistics firm. She kept the books. They had a small apartment in Westlands. And Jerry was born at Aga Khan Hospital on a Friday, 3.4 kilograms. Screaming so loud the nurses laughed. David got a 2-year contract in Seoul. Good money. They moved when Jerry was 3. Itaewon first. Then a small place in Mapogu. 6 months in, David died. Stomach cancer. The kind that doesn't say it's coming. By the time the pain started, it was everywhere. He lasted 11 days in the hospital. Wanjiku held his hand through all 11. On the 12th morning, the bed was empty. The machines were off. She stood there holding his wedding ring and didn't understand how a thing that heavy could weigh so little. His company dropped the visa the day after the funeral. Not a week later. The day after. The paperwork hadn't even cleared. 90 days to leave Korea or find a new sponsor. A 3-year-old. No family. Basic Korean. Enough for the courtroom. She found work through a domestic agency. Live-in Maid. Gangnam house. Visa tied to the job. Low pay, 1.8 million won a month. But it came with a room and a clause that said her daughter could stay as long as the child did not interfere with house operations. And Jerry sat on the kitchen floor on Tuesdays because aftercare didn't run on Tuesdays. That was it. A scheduling gap. A missing Tuesday slot. That gap put a 6-year-old on cold tile at 5:47 in the morning, watching a woman dissolve poison into tea. Back at the house, the net was closing. The new camera angle caught 2 more mornings. Wednesday, Thursday. Seo Yan came in before 6 o'clock both days. Same routine. Pocket, pill, stir, wash, wash again. Thursday afternoon, Sung-woo watched the footage in a back office with Director Oh, Jae-sun's intelligence chief. 60s, wire-rimmed glasses, leather notebook, mechanical pencil. He watched the footage 3 times. 3rd time he put his pencil down and closed his notebook. Professional, he said. The only word he offered? Meanwhile, knee Jerry. Every Tuesday for weeks, she'd been drawing the same thing. A house. Small, pointed roof, 3 windows, and a yellow door. She'd nearly used up the yellow crayon, 2 inches of wax and a torn paper sleeve. On Tuesday, she walked up to one of the suited men outside the kitchen. Kang, 6'2", earpiece, stone-faced, and asked, "Do you have yellow?" He reached into his jacket and pulled out a yellow highlighter. Is this yellow enough? She took it, looked at it, looked at him. It's wrong yellow, she said. Then she took it anyway and went back to her drawing. Wrong yellow. She needed one specific yellow. The yellow of the front door of their apartment in Nairobi. The one David painted the week before she was born. Wanjiku said a baby should come home to a bright door. That yellow. Only that yellow. But we'll come back to the yellow door. Because right now, at 11:42 a.m. on a Friday, Jae-soon's phone rang. The lab, a chemist named Dr. Baek, flat, clinical Korean. The compound was a cardiac glycoside blend. Modified. Hard to trace. Low daily doses attack the heart muscle. Slow, steady. Like rust on iron. After death, it looked like heart failure. A doctor would see a weak heart in a man in his late 40s and shrug. Dr. Baek read the numbers. Dose per cup. Total absorbed. 5 weeks of tiny white pills mapped on paper. 4 to 6 more weeks. If Jerry hadn't been in that kitchen, if the study hadn't flooded, if Jae-sun hadn't walked downstairs and lifted the cup where a child could see him, he'd be dead before winter. He said one word, enough, and hung up. He opened his phone. One message to Sung-oh. Tonight, the office. 8 p.m. Full detail. Then he did something the staff would talk about for years. He left his tea untouched on the desk. Every day, same time, the cup came back empty. That Friday, the cup came back full. Seo-yeon noticed. She was trained to notice. Trained the way a hawk is trained. To watch without looking like she's watching. To read the temperature of a room by the angle of a man's shoulders. She saw the full cup on the kitchen counter that afternoon. Cold. Tea bag still inside. Something behind her eyes shifted. She reached for her phone. Stopped. Put it back. And smiled. A smile that didn't reach past her cheekbones. Now I need you to answer this honestly. If you found out you'd been carrying a poisoned cup to someone's desk for 35 mornings, would I didn't know feel like enough? Tell me in the comments. Because Wanjiku is about to find out what that sentence weighs. Friday, 6:30 p.m., a woman Wanjiku had never seen knocked on her door. Dark blazer, name tag, Choi. Polite, careful English. Mr. Park asks that you and your daughter move to the guest suite tonight. Wanjiku held Ninjeri on her hip, half asleep, face pressed into her mother's neck. Why? Safety, nothing else. 2 men in dark suits at the end of the hall. Same kind of men outside the kitchen. Something was very wrong. A low hum in her body. The same hum she felt the night David didn't come home from the hospital. The feeling that lives below language. My daughter doesn't go anywhere without me, Wanjiku said. And I don't go anywhere without knowing why. Choi checked her phone. A message came back in 4 seconds. Mr. Park says, she stays with you. A female staffer outside your door. No men inside. Wanjiku stood there for 3 seconds. Counted them. Then she walked to the guest suite. Najeri's head heavy on her shoulder. Door closed behind her. The lock clicked from outside. She didn't sleep. She sat on the bed with Neri curled against her and listened. Footsteps, low voices, a car in the basement garage at 7:45. 8 p.m., the office. 8 people. Jae-soon behind the desk. Sunwoo to his right, arms crossed. Director O in the corner. Notebook open, pen, still. 4 bodyguards at the corners. Hands folded. Faces empty. The teacup sat center of the desk. Seo-yeon had brought it herself 10 minutes ago. You look tired, she'd said. I made your tea. He set it on the desk. Didn't drink. The cup sat between them now. Steam rising in a thin column. Sit, Jae-sun said. She sat, crossed her legs. Perfect posture. The kind that comes from training, not comfort. The door closed behind her. Lock turned from outside. Click. Her eyes moved to the door. Then, back to Jae-sun. Her right hand, just for a second, pressed flat against her thigh. 5 seconds of silence with 8 people in the room. Count it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Kang, the one who gave him Jerry the highlighter, shifted his weight half an inch. Director O's pen froze mid-stroke. The only sound was the faint settling tick of porcelain on wood. Then Jae-sun opened the folder. He slid one sheet across the desk. The tox report. Date stamped, dosage mapped, compound identified. He slid a second sheet. A timeline. 35 entries. Date and dose. He slid a third. A surveillance photo. Grainy but clear. Manicured fingers dropping a white pill into a cup. Timestamp 5:48 a.m. Thursday. Say, Oh Yan looked at the papers. Didn't touch him. Eyes scanned once. Twice. She leaned back. Her face was still perfect. Not the calm of innocence. The calm of a plan that includes getting caught. 5 weeks, Jae-sun said. Her chin lifted half an inch. You were going to die naturally, she said. That was the whole point. Nobody breathed. She said it without shaking. The way you'd say, the light is on. Clean. Who sent you? Jae-sun asked. Does it matter? It matters enough for me to ask once. She looked at the teacup, then the men in the corners, then back at him. The Choi family. Choi Myung-ho. He sends his regards. The room shifted. Not the bodies, the air. The Choi family ran the second largest syndicate in Incheon. Myung-ho was the patriarch. 71. 3 strokes. Still sharp enough to engineer a kill using a beautiful woman and a slow poison. The engagement lasted 14 months. Dinners. Shared beds. Quiet mornings. 14 months of cover. I was placed, Seo-yeon said. The engagement was entry. The timeline was mapped. 1 more month and your heart gives out. Clean. No investigation. She tilted her head. You trusted a Kenyan maid with your tea. That's almost funny. 7 men went still. One guard's jaw clenched so tight the muscle under his ear jumped. The silence filled the room like water rising. Jae-sun didn't raise his voice. He spoke the way a blade falls. Seo-yeon blinked. First, uncontrolled motion all night. He turned his head towards Sungwoo, Director O. Every guard. She saved my life. Her name is Wanjiku. Her daughter's name isn't Jerry. Then, quieter. Your handler's son, the one at Cased, is in apartment 4 billion in Taejon. Blue curtains. I know because I own the building. He let that land. The Choi warehouse in Yansudong, behind the fish market. Watched for 11 months. I know the schedules, the shipments, the names. A thin crack in her calm. Like a crack in a windshield you only see when the light hits right. Jae-sun adjusted his left cuff. Slow. The way a man does when the conversation is already over, but he wants you to feel every second left. I could have known about you 3 months ago, he said. I didn't test the tea because I didn't think I needed to. The girl tested it for me. He stood. 1 phone call. 4 words in Korean. Hung up. He didn't shout. Didn't hit the desk. That was the terrifying part. The anger was there. You could feel it like static. But it was stored. Compressed. Locked behind the same face that held steady through 35 mornings of poison. Seo-yeon stood. 2 guards moved to her sides. She straightened her blouse. Professional calm. You call it murder, she said. I call it duty. Walk, Sungwoo said. She walked. Between the guards, through the doorway. Down the hall. Her heels made no sound on the carpet. She didn't look back. By midnight, Yoon Seo-yeon was gone. Not arrested. Not charged. Not processed through any system that leaves a trail. Gone. In this world, the world of men like Park Jae-sun, gone doesn't mean jail. It means something you don't ask about. Something that lives in the space between the question and the silence that follows. But there was still one more thing he had to do that night. The hardest thing. Harder than the lab results. Harder than the confrontation. Harder than the phone call. He had to tell Wanjiku. If you've ever kept your head down to survive, at work, in a country that isn't yours, in a room where nobody says your name, listen carefully, because what happens next is what silence costs when someone else decides to use you. 11:16 p.m. Jae-sun walked down the hallway alone. No guards, no Sungwoo. He knocked. The staffer opened the door. Wanjiku sat on the bed, and Jerry curled beside her under a white blanket, one arm thrown over a pillow. The window showed Seoul's skyline, towers of light stacked against the dark. Wanjiku's eyes were red, dry. She was past tears. In the place beyond, tears where the body runs on fear and waiting. He pulled a chair from the desk, sat across from her, elbows on his knees, hands clasped. There was something in the tea, he said, poison. In the tea you brought me every morning, for 5 weeks. Her face didn't move. The words hit her, but her body took a moment to catch up. Like a window cracking in slow motion, the fracture first, then the shatter, then the falling. Your fiancé put it in the cup before you came to the kitchen each morning. You didn't know. You carried it, but you didn't know. Wanjiku opened her mouth. Nothing came out. My daughter, your daughter saw it. She told me, that's why you're in this room tonight. She saved my life. Wanjiku looked at Neri, asleep, small. One sock on, one off. Yellow puffer jacket folded on the chair. A crayon drawing of a house sticking out of the jacket pocket. Something inside her broke. Not loud. The kind of break that happens behind the ribs where no one can see. She stood up, walked out of the suite, past the staffer, down the hallway, down the stairs, into the kitchen. Dark, fluorescent lights humming. That green-white hum that makes everything look sick. Cold tile under bare feet. She could feel every grain of grout between the tiles. She dropped to her knees, palms open, facing up, trembling. She reached for the kettle on the counter, pulled it down, held it against her stomach. Empty, cold, but her fingers locked around the handle, white at the knuckles, and she couldn't let go. The white porcelain cup sat clean on the drying rack. Just ceramic. Just glaze. But from the floor, it was a weapon. Her weapon. The weapon she'd carried without knowing, without asking, without doing the one thing she should have done 35 times. Ask why the tea was already made. She tried to breathe. The air wouldn't go deep enough. Stopped in her throat. Short, fast. The breathing that happens when your body tries to reject what your mind just learned. Then, footsteps. In the doorway, Jae-sun stood there. He looked at her on the floor, the kettle in her grip, the cup on the rack, green-white light painting everything the color of old ice. He walked in. He knelt. Not one knee. Both, on the cold tile. Tailored trousers on the same floor wherein Jerry sat every Tuesday. His face came level with hers. He reached for the kettle. Slow, the way you free a bird from a net, one finger at a time. He loosened her index finger, then her middle finger, then her ring finger. Each one peeled back like he was breaking a seal. He took the kettle and set it on the tile beside him. You carried tea, he said, not poison. She looked at him, eyes wet, jaw tight. The scar on her chin from a childhood fall caught the light. My hands, she said. It was my hands. Your hands did what they were told. Someone else decided what that meant. 2 people on a kitchen floor, one in a tailored suit, one in a gray uniform, one who owned the building, one who cleaned it. The fluorescent light hummed. The kettle sat between them. And upstairs, a 6-year-old girl drew a house with a yellow door. Sunday afternoon, Jae-sun called Wanjiku to his study. Pipe fixed, desk clean. 2 chairs. On the desk sat a thick brown envelope. He stood by the window, looking out at Seoul, cranes, towers, October sun turning everything orange. Open it. Inside, a property deed. Small apartment in Gangnam. 2 bedrooms. Her name on the deed. Not a lease. A deed. A bank document. School fees paid. Now through university. In Jerry's name at the top. Yongsan International. 3-year waiting list, a handwritten note, 1 line, angular letters, blue ink. This debt has no end date. She read it twice, looked at him. Why? Because a child shouldn't have to save a grown man's life to earn a safe place to sleep. Wanjiku put the papers back, pressed her hand flat on the envelope, held it there, making sure it was real. Then she said, I have terms. Jae-sun turned from the window. No more Tuesdays in that kitchen. Aftercare for Jerry on Tuesdays and Thursdays so she doesn't sit on a floor where that happened. Real paperwork for my visa. Stable. And nobody questions my daughter alone. Not your men, not your staff. If someone needs to talk to her, I'm in the room. She said all of this standing up, chin level, hands at her sides. The same woman who used to stop humming mid-note when she heard footsteps. Jae-sun looked at her. For the first time since she'd worked in that house, maybe the first time since she'd entered any room in Korea, a powerful man saw her. Not her uniform, not her hands on a tray. Her. Done, he said. Paperwork starts today. Tuesday. 1 week later, same counter, same kettle, same cup. But Nigeri wasn't on the floor. She was at aftercare. Safe. Drawing, probably. Asking a teacher for the right yellow. 2 men outside the kitchen door. Kang and a new guard named Yu. They knew Wanjiku's name. They knew Nigeri liked rice crackers with sesame. They knew the kettle went on at 6:17 and the tea was poured at 6:22, facing outward. Not in. Wanjiku boiled the water herself now, opened the tea bag herself, poured it herself. Every step, hers. No one touched the cup before her, no one touched it after, until it reached the desk. She picked up the cup. Her hands shook. Not the fine trembling from the kitchen floor. Bigger, starting at the shoulders, working down. The cup rattled on the saucer. A drop spilled over the rim and ran down the white porcelain. She set it down, closed her eyes. 1 minute, 2, 3. 3 minutes of her body remembering 35 mornings. The kettle click, sounding like something else, like a lock turning, like a pill dissolving in 4 seconds. Then, the shaking stopped. She picked up the cup, walked down the hall, knocked twice, entered. Jae-sun looked up from his desk. She set the cup down. She didn't bow, didn't leave. She stood there 1 breath longer than she ever had. She looked him in the eye. No one touches my daughter. Not ever. He held her gaze, picked up the cup, and drank. That Saturday, Nyeri brought a drawing to the kitchen. She held it up for Kang. A house, small, pointed roof, 3 windows, and a yellow door, the same yellow door she'd drawn every Tuesday since she was 4. The front door of their apartment in Nairobi. The one her father painted the week before she was born. She drew it because she was scared she'd forget. She drew it every Tuesday because Tuesday was the day he used to come home early and carry her on his shoulders through that door. The right yellow. Only the right yellow. Kang looked at the drawing, looked at the girl. Good house, he said. It's my daddy's house. She went back to her crayons. 2 armed men outside the kitchen door, facing outward. Inside, Nigeri hums. No tune, just sound. The kind of humming a child does when she feels safe enough to make noise. Wanjiku stands at the counter. The kettle clicks off. She reaches for it. Her hand stops. Just for a second. The flinch is small. You'd miss it if you weren't watching. That click. It used to mean tea. Now it means something else in her body. Something her mind has to overrule every time. She picks up the kettle. Pours. And under her breath, so quiet that only the kitchen hears, she hums. Lala Mount Toto. Lala. 1 line. Just 1. The kettle clicks as she sets it down. The humming stops. The apartment in Gangnam has a blue front door. And Jerry asked to paint it yellow. Wanjiku said not yet, because yellow belongs to a door in Nairobi. A door a dead man painted for a baby who hadn't been born yet. Some colors can move. They stay where they are. They hold what they hold. The guards will be there tomorrow, and next Tuesday, and the one after that. The dead has no end date. The protection is real. But every morning when the kettle clicks off, Wanjiku's hands still remember. She hums one line, then she stops.